I've never done a vlog before, but I thought I would document this band and start with today, May 1st. Today what I did was, after a gig, I was able to talk to a couple guys about the project that want to get involved, and it was really nice to be able to bounce some more ideas off and get a clearer picture of the direction of where the band's going. And I'm also thinking more along the lines of compositions and about how to make these compositions, and so experiment with a lot of this chance type elements. So trying to figure out a good system of using the musical dice is going to be one thing on the agenda. And then another thing is doing chance, rolling dice or something where it can correspond to, okay, what key is it, what is the time signature, what's the tempo, what is are there any alterations in the key signature or anything like that. And I would like to be able to create a system where I don't decide that, and then maybe how much emphasis would be on, for instance, putting accidentals in a key signature. You don't want that on every song, and some of them can be, way too dissonant for this genre. So, find little things like that to maybe throw in there every now and then. This would be like, out of your 7-note scale, omit the fifth. I always thought it'd be cool to have a scale that has no fifth. And that'd be nice to throw that card in there among a lot of other cards that would be more common things, too. And every once in a while you would pick that, omit the third. So it's just a neutral, suspended tone. That would be a wonderful thing to vamp on for, a couple of minutes at a time, and then resolve it to something else. So yeah, that would be another thing on the agenda too, maybe to actually just design my own set of oracle cards. The genre of, minimalist composers and the avant-garde, and, things that are typically in a different world than most people are in. It's kind of, it costs money to go to these kind of events, or they're at art galleries, and they kind of have an exclusive crowd. And I thought, what if I take a lot of this kind of stuff that you see in the avant-garde and try to take that into the nightclubs? So in a sense, I want to take the music out of the art galleries and put it in the nightclubs and basically water it down, and I'm not afraid to say it. I think if something is truly avant-garde, it can be used to really stimulate people on an intellectual level. Yet what I'm trying to do is trying to reach people on an emotional level. I want to create something that's very soothing, and something that they can trust and count on, that if they put on this music for 2 to 3 hours, then it's going to stay at a certain dynamic, and it's never going to be able to, for instance, wake them up from a nap. They could sleep through it, and yet they could wake up and it would still be interesting on a musical level. So it'd be really wonderful to have that balance and to capture that as well. I'm finding that it'd be great to have a balance of people that have a real classical background and the folks that have more of a rock and jazz background, and try to fuse that together. But things are going okay. I'm trying to do, something every day for the project, and trying to document how I'm doing every day to keep me motivated about it. And I was jumping a little too far ahead when I had actually got a gig on summer solstice, and realized that that's a little too soon for doing this project, because I really need to really create the sound and really start the music before I just have people go up there and just start jamming, because I really want to preserve a real particular sound in this project. And it's going to be hard to find that balance of trying to preserve the sound and yet not being a total dictator. Well, it's May 3rd, and I'm just checking in on this vlog to update how I'm doing on the ambient prog project. And I think lately what I'm dealing with is just weeding through a lot of the emotional baggage that I have about having started bands in the past, and whether it was just a bad combination or it was typically my attitude or whatever it is. A lot of it has to do with, and I'm open about this, about the fact that I'm mentally disabled. I don't have it as a defining factor of my life. It's not who I am, but it's something that I live with, something I deal with. And I don't think of it as any different than having a broken leg. It's just a lot of people don't know it, and a lot of people get offended if they don't understand what's going on with me, and it's very hard to live with, and especially when you're around creative people and in a place of leadership, it gets very difficult. So I have a lot of issues I've got to deal with as far as just being afraid to just being afraid of failing, I guess. And so it's just another hurdle I'm getting over, and I think I'm making progress with it because I think it's just acknowledging it. And, I'm still going to be journaling and still going to be making sure that I keep the communication lines open. But I'm pretty positive about it. I'm still talking to other people about other musicians and just putting the word out there, and it's hard. It's really is putting your baby out there, and you never know if people are going to love it or hate it, or if they're going to judge it. But, if it's your dream, you just got to keep at it, and that's just the way to be successful, and that's the way to get anything done, so that's what I'm going to do. So I tried to search the web last year or two to find oblique strategies on the web. Someday it'd be nice to actually order an actual oblique strategies deck, but I do find it funny that I had a dream last night that I ran into Brian Eno, and I got to talk to him a bit, and then I wanted to tell him my little story about how I got into his music when I was like in middle school, and how cool that was. And then he didn't want to hear it and walked off. And then I kept bumping into him. I mean, this dream just went on and on. It was like 3 or 4 more times I ran into him, and then we got to talk a lot, which I thought was really a funny dream. And so anyways, here it is. This is Oblique Strategies. This is, this year it'll be 40 years since this system was developed. And it is an oracle card, like basically the tarot, but it's for recording studios and stuff like that. It's really good to aid in the creative process. Songwriting, just mostly music, but it can be used. It was actually created by an artist named Peter Schmidt, mostly done by Brian Eno. It was his concept, and there's been different editions of it over the years. This one says here, listen to that quiet voice. This one says, from nothing to more than nothing. How would you have done it? Repetition is a form of change. So it'll be fun. I also came up with today some ideas that I can add for my own oracle cards. And I have a working name that I'm working with them, but they're going to be directly related to the form of this music that I'm developing here, which I can't really say I'm developing. I guess I'm developing my system. The music I'm doing has already been done. It's just, can I pull it off with a live setting, and can I find musicians that can play it, and is it going to be too hard? Is it going to be too simple for people? So it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds. Well, it's May 4th, and yesterday I bumped into somebody at the local bar who turned out to be in charge of one of my favorite bands here in town, and it was great to have the discussion because I told her about the project I was doing and how I want to try to get it in the club scene, and she just looked at me and said, well, why do people go to clubs? And I said, well, to dance. I was being honest. And I said, but there's always people that want this and that, and she had a great business philosophy too, which a lot of bands don't use. and they don't survive because they don't really have much of a business thing. It's all about their vision and it's all about their passion. Um, Yet they don't have a lot of organizational skills and things like that too. But it really made me think also that, gosh, maybe I shouldn't even try the nightclub scene because I might be doing people a disservice if they're coming to see a concert and they're expecting energetic music, because that's typically what happens. Either that or there'll be some downtimes in a concert, but if people want to go see a show and they see something that is mellow throughout the entire show, um, I really could disappoint people. And so it'd be really hard to know what to do in those kind of situations. So I'm thinking maybe I should try to go to the cafe scene. It's just that, the cafe scene, you're just dealing with such small numbers of people, and the noises are very intermittent. I did a very quiet show at a cafe one time, and all you could hear is the espresso machine because I had to be so quiet. But the espresso machine was overpowering, and then people were yelling over the steam. You couldn't hear my music at all. And so I've got so many different issues with so many different avenues I could go, but I'm glad I'm thinking about this and documenting it because I have so many thoughts and it's hard to type them all and stuff like that. But tomorrow, I feel like I need to really write a very short synopsis. Take those 10 pages and try to take them down to 1 page or maybe even less than that. So that's going to be a real challenge. So I just need to stay positive and just keep going and not get discouraged.
Wanted to note about my influence of mysticism and how I like this cliche of magic. I mean, music is inspired by the creative, and the creative realms. There's something very mystical and magical about that, um, and so I feel like it's great to add that element into my music. It's funny because I have these apprehensive feelings having spent most of my adult life in very theologically conservative circles. And it's bringing me back to a lot of the things that I was into as a teenager, but I'm kind of slowly integrating it. And so one of those things is there's an online horoscope that I enjoy, and a lot of times it hits it right on. This one's funny for today, too. It says, "Don't waste your time manipulating a perfectly reasonable idea into something that it is not. If you try to show a down to earth concept in a neon and glitter kind of way, your true message may get lost. And then what would be the point of it all? Make your presentation clearly and convincingly, and that's all you really have to do." I mean, that's pretty wild. It's almost like somebody giving me advice about the project. So I tried to come up with a little something here today while I'm at the Clackamas River and trying to. This is my first draft, so it just is like something like, "What do you do when you play old Pink Floyd songs and yet omit everything that gets loud and fast, yet having music that sounds like a minimalist composer but with jazz structures containing altered time signatures and scales found in Indian classical music?" And then after it says dialectic flowers, it says ambient yet interesting, meditative while being creative, compositions conceived by divination. I think those are the most important things I need to add to that to give people, a real basic idea of the sound that I want. And so I'm really starting to talk about it more. I really kept silent about it for years. It seemed like I was starting to get back into doing some ambient music because of a project I did with my mom. And then I started listening to a lot of like Popol Vuh and Brian Eno and trying to get back into some Tangerine Dream and stuff like that. And just really seeing the value of it. There's a value of music that makes you happy and want to dance, and there's music that's dramatic and stuff. But there's also there's people that want that meditative, that background kind of music, And a lot of people don't want to listen to elevator music, and they don't want to listen to somebody noodling around on a synthesizer in some kind of new age market. And so I just wanted to create an alternative to that. Basically, music I would want to listen to. And so uh, it sounds a little selfish, but I thought I'm not the only one that really is hungry for music like this. And I think it needs to be out there. And I want to just bombard the world with as much as I possibly can do. And then I also don't deal with a lot of the deep issues that are hindering me from not giving up on something. That's basically the one thing I'm trying to avoid is giving up. And usually I bite off more than I can chew, and I want to spit it out. And I just want to be able to, you know, not hinder the creative process and the vision, and yet be as realistic as I possibly can, and to communicate that.
Well, it's May 8th today, and I just woke up after sleeping all day because I've got a late night show tonight. It's our anniversary show for Northbound Rain. My partner just got home from being up at 5 o'clock about the time I went to bed. So we're doing a tag team sleeping. But anyways, yeah, I've been really wound up, but I'm still trying to do a little bit every day for the project. And yesterday I did create the Facebook page, and I decided on a name for now, although, you know, we might vote on it later and change it, but I decided on Dialectic Flowers, and I'll explain that later. It's pretty complicated, but it's got a good reason why I chose that name. But I'm dealing with some personal issues about the project, and there seems to be this, and maybe this is where I need to learn more dialectic thinking, but I seem to have this idea, if I take on a big project, I seem to minimize it in my mind. For some reason it becomes this massive, massive thing in my head, and it becomes too big to handle. And then I try to convince myself, oh, it's not a big deal. All I'm doing is standing on a stage and doing this. And then when I get there, I realize, you know, I needed to be more mentally prepared, and I needed to have more time and more effort and things, because this is a lot harder than I thought. And so I go to these extremes like that. So I'm really trying not to have that, and trying to really have a sober and balanced approach about it. So I'm thinking about actually getting the mental health community involved, just because I'm thinking about getting more out there. It's not like I want attention. It's not like I want sympathy. It's just that, you know, I think when somebody has a challenge and they're doing something that's kind of beyond their abilities, I think that I think people should know that sometimes. I honestly think that if I had tried to start this band 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do it, because I just didn't have any good examples of how to run a band. I was either on the extreme of just being too lax and letting things fall apart, or I had a real heavy hand and ended up trying to control things too much. And so the bands that I've been working with lately have really good leadership skills, and that's what's kept their bands going. And it's always this balance of, you know, how much control should I have over the band to preserve the sound, and then the human element. Am I going to run people off? Am I going to offend people?
Well, it's day 11 of the Activia Challenge. I mean, of me working on the band project. And, well, I could say today that I got my first, I can't say discouragement though, but everybody I've talked to has really been on board and encouraging. And then I mentioned it to somebody who knows me better than anybody probably in this world, and it's like, oh no. But it was sort of the idea of like, oh, Jason's going to start a rock band, and it's going to be loud, and it's going to be late at night, and, you know, that gets really too hard after a while and stuff like that. But, you know, the more I started talking about it, the more it was like, okay, I'm starting to convince folks that I can do this, and they're starting to convince me that I can, so it's good. And I think the more I think about it, the more I want it, because I used to be in Christian bands when I was real practicing in that faith, and it's like we had our message and that was it. I never ever want to have a band with a message again. But I thought, okay, well, if I did have a message, it would basically just be raising awareness about mental health issues, and I think that it touches everybody's life, whether it's a family member or it's a friend or a coworker. Everybody's got to know somebody whose needs or is getting some kind of mental health care. And I see the problems with homeless and jails and some of the big ills of our society could really, really be helped by having access and awareness about mental health care. And access is a big thing. So I thought, well, but I don't want to be preachy. I just want to have that a part of my life, and maybe it'll come out as people get to know me as well as the music. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the nightclub scene might not be the best thing. Maybe even like a large, quiet coffee house scene. But, I was thinking about the art house scene, but it just seems so exclusive, trying to get into those things. I always feel like I have to wear a black turtleneck shirt and have a foreign accent and some kind of interesting thing done with my facial hair in order for people to listen to me, and I'm just not good at doing stuff like that. But I want to make music, more for the general public. I mean, not music that everybody wants to listen to. And so, yeah, what I'm doing is counterculture, but I'm wondering if there is a way to make it more accessible to people that wouldn't necessarily be really adventurous. So I'm learning to be okay about wanting to be successful. It's not a wrong thing to do that, as long as that's not the primary focus. And it's not even wrong to be financially motivated, although I don't see any financial potential in this much at all. And I think about, artists of different kinds that are successful, and I think there's some that are successful because they got discovered, and they might not even have any life skills or any business sense. And then there are those that are artists and have a lot of business sense. And so those that really, really have a lot of good skills of working with people as well as their craft, those are the ones that get it out there. And that's primarily how things work, at least these days, especially in music. There's a lot of people that still think they can find a record producer and, cut a record and get discovered and have that producer get them to sign a contract like it is in the movies, like it supposedly was in the 50s and 60s. But now with digital domain, there's so much we can do with duration, and there's so much we can do. I mean, I want to have an animated album cover. That would be fun, like a GIF file, because, I want to make albums that are 4 hours long. Because, we have unlimited duration almost with the digital domain, and I think that's worth exploring. So, lots of ideas.
Just been doing some more thinking about my limitations and about how I start a band, being aware of these limitations, and how much of a big deal should I make it. So that's that's a big issue, because from my perspective, I almost feel like somebody who can't physically walk and needs help walking, and most people wouldn't really hesitate to help a person up the stairs who can't make it up themselves. But yet, what if somebody's trying to get upstairs and they have a bad back, and you can never tell? And that's the thing about most mentally ill people, is you can't tell that there's a problem, especially with more people that are considered higher functioning. So that's one thing I'm thinking about. How do I go about that without going to extremes and without freaking people out? And then there's another thing, is I don't want to be somebody who says, okay, listen to my music, and then they find out there's an agenda behind it, like I'm trying to get people to think about this, or, look at my particular cause, somebody who sells somebody a CD, and then then and you open it up, and everything's all about some, relief agency that they're really into. That's okay. I just wish I knew that ahead of time. So that's something else I'm thinking about as well. And I still think that, this setback that I had this weekend, getting somebody telling me not to do the project makes me want to do it.
I almost forgot that today, May 12th, was also another little milestone for me. I was able to send out about 5 or 6 emails today of just 3 or 4 paragraphs of the project, and then I'm going to add some more to that later, as I want to clarify more things. I don't want to overwhelm folks, because I'm creating a system of music. There's been a lot of systems. I mean, every style of music basically has their own system, but creating one from scratch pretty much, although I'm not doing anything really original, just putting them all in one bag, I think, is original.
It's Sunday, May 12th, and I just wanted to chime in a little bit about this weekend. I didn't get to work on the project very much. It's just been very trying for me, and dealing with some very intense physical, emotional, and mental stuff. So tried to take it easy and tried to get out a little bit. And but today I did manage to work on the design some more for the divination music altar thing, and got a little frustrated, but I had some encouragement about perseverance and stuff like that. So times when it might seem unproductive can turn out to be a positive thing, and it doesn't mean it's going downhill. And so I'm just still trying to encourage myself.
It's May 14th, and been working on the Dialectic Flowers project. I added some stuff to the Facebook page and posted my first link, so kind of getting that out there to all my Facebook friends and friends of friends, and tagged some people on it. So we'll see if I get some good feedback on that. I was just browsing YouTube and found something by the Third Ear Band from French TV from 1970, and I think we could do a better job than that. It's got a really cool concept, taking mostly orchestral instruments and doing minimalism. Most of it seems to be improvised too, which what they were doing. So I thought that's pretty cool. And I've just been doing some thinking here. I'm working on this thing here. This is kind of like my first version of what I wanted to have on my quote altar, which is going to be where all the chants music is conceived. And I really hope I clarified that not everything is done by chants. It's what I call integrated. So I'm integrating the creative process with the random chaos of chants, and a lot of things in life are like that too, so I like that concept. So I have, the key. I'm using these musical dice that my partner gave me, and this is a really cool thing because he had these and he didn't know what to do with them, so he was going to give them to me, not even realizing that I needed something just like this, and the fact that I didn't even know there was such things as musical dice. So these are really awesome. So that's going to be one of the things, and then the scale. I'll get to choose what kind of scale it is, because there's 7 different modes, and then there's alterations of those modes, and then we've got melodic and harmonic minor and all those kind of things too, which is fun. Now the feel's going to be interesting. I'm really thinking about drawing a tarot card and then reading it or looking at the picture and kind of getting a feel. An integrated chance card is something that I've been having this long list of things to do that are kind of like maybe a musical game that you could stick in there, like omit the fifth. I think that's really fun. Be really hard for people to do, to be improvising and not play the 5th note of the scale. It's almost like not playing the root, which would also be something really fun too. Time signature, I would like to have 3 or 4 different dice and then add those up to get a time signature. And then, but this is all dependent on, there's going to be 2 or 3, maybe 4 different sections, an A and a B and a C section that'll alternate with each piece, so it doesn't get monotonous. So that'll be interesting to see how I do those transitions, how different they're going to be, if they're going to all be in the same key and things like that. So, okay, I'm going forward. My body, my mind, everything in me is just cringing and saying, "Oh, this is too much for me. I'm not going to do this," and my system is going to shut down, and I'm going to go through this, fight or flight response, like I typically do when I'm going through a panic attack. And a lot of times people teach this exposure therapy, that you just expose yourself gradually to the things that make you panic, and it helps you to get over that stuff. So this is a good opportunity for me to really start dealing with these issues and acknowledging them, living with them, coping with them, and not being afraid to be honest with them as well, because this is typically where I usually give up when I do a project that's major like this, or I run everybody away. So it'll be interesting to see how things go, but it's been a really good couple of days, because I've been connecting with more people, talking about the project more. It's weird because I've never been a person that has just gone up and, talked to people. Hi, I'm a musician and I do this. Oh, by the way, I suffer daily. I just didn't even realize how much I suffer until I get around, other people that do the same kind of work that I do. And it's so easy for them. And so it's just the way things are. And I live with it. I cope with it. And I'm not mad at God. I'm used to be mad at myself, and I have to not be mad at myself. I've got an idea about, you know, um, this thing about the altar, where I kind of want to make it triangular shape maybe, and have it really big, so I can have different dice in sections where it says this is the section A, B, and C. So, and then we can choose a form from that, or just alternate. And then I also was thinking about having each section to be where you roll a die for, let's say, if there's any chord changes in that. And there's kind of a flow chart. Is there a chord change? Yes. And then what chord changes does that go to? And da 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 da. So, anyways, I thought, well, it'd be really cool to have, if there is a chord change, if you just roll a six-sided die, then you can get, the root would be just stay, but if there's a chord change, and you can use the six others for the second through the seventh. But then it's not quite as fun, because there's no accidentals in there as well. That's just a diatonic thing. So I don't know. I just keep thinking about stuff like that, about the whole system. And then I researched this weekend, and I found out that there are some systems that are actually marketed, and you can order them. As far as that, I hope I get to document the composition thing, and I'm really nervous about it. And I want to go to the store tomorrow and pick up some of these multi-sided dice and see if I could come up with a system. But then again, I think maybe I'm working a little too fast, and it's hard for me to start a project like this, because when I start it, I want to start it right. I want to say that everything we've done in this project has been this way from the beginning to the end. But that might not be it. I've also promised myself I would not use Craigslist, and I did. I contacted one person on Craigslist and said, "Oh my gosh, your ad on Craigslist was exactly the kind of person I'm looking for." And I wrote, and I was like, "Wow, that's your interest," or right along where I'm thinking about. Never heard from the guy again. It's like typical Craigslist flake. This music is in my head, and it's so hard to get it out. And I'm afraid, like a lot of times when I do something creative, especially with visual art, I got something in my mind and I try to do it, and I'm not a skilled painter as I am, being educated in music. But when it comes to composition and getting the sound perfect, it's really hard to really have that materialize. And that is probably one of the two biggest things that creative people have trouble with, especially those that deal with a mental illness, because it's so hard to focus, to go from inspiration to creation to promotion. Usually we're just so full of inspiration and we can't. This is something I'm thinking about looking into. Is, you know, if somebody's like hyper tapped into the creative realm and they can't get it to stop, how do I get that to stop? So that's something I've been thinking about too, because honestly, being creative can be addictive. I mean, it's thrilling to be able to do something beyond yourself and to be honored to tap into some kind of invisible thing that apparently a lot of people have a hard time with, or they don't even try, or they give up, or they're maybe, I don't know. And so it's an honor, and yet I seem to just want to stay in that imagination realm and not materialize it. And that's what's freaking me out so much.
Today was a very good day. I think mental health wise, it was one of the worst, if not the worst, as I see me going through, the bipolar stuff is the down and then the up. It's been way, way, way high, and it's very hard to concentrate, very hard to focus, rapid speech, physical symptoms, just exhausting, and yet, my mind just can't stop. It's so frustrating and really absent-minded. I mean, having to go back to the store because I'm forgetting stuff like that. But, it's one of those times when, there's a mental health episode, and sometimes I go with the flow, and I just try to rest up. This is one of those times where I feel like I need to fight it, and yeah, I could be wrong, but I just want to keep pressing forward. And so today I bought a couple of sets of dice, and some multi-sided and some six-sided, and I'm still kind of developing how that's going to translate into parameters, for music. And my cat is really crabby right now and wants to go out. And that's something that I call integrated chance music, because pure chance music is creating a system where every note is composed through methods of divination or chance. And I don't find that music to be very listenable, although I love the concept. So I want to integrate the creative process. In fact, there's probably going to be a lot more creative process than there is generated data that's going to conceive the songs. But I like the term conceive the pieces, because I want to feel like they're born out of not me just picking out things out of the top of my head. Or a lot of singer-songwriters choose to pick keys and rhythms and things that they're familiar with because that's just their voice. So this is going to really get me out of my box, and I'm kind of scared. I am really, really excited about, the first kind of productive meeting. Last week I talked to a couple of new folks that are interested. So I have about 8 of us right now that are interested. One of those is somebody who hasn't shown interest in the project but is giving me some input. And this individual has a project in town that's very similar to what I want to do. So it's really cool. And then I got this guy who I really admire in town, and he's in several bands, and he's been providing some input on my new page. So I'm just excited and terrified and everything in between. So be interesting to see how this goes. And I thought, it's not bad to have there goes my toes. It's not bad to have a band and call it a marketing concept, because, as wonderful and as magical as the creative process is, you're still running a business, and you got to run it like a business, or else it could fail. So, something I really like to do is to have maybe it be like a live band. It's not going to sound very live, because I want the recordings to really, really be direct into the system and not really have a live sound to it, because it's not that style of music. But I want to be able to create an incredible amount of recordings, because this is a kind of music that it's such extended durations, and it's such a background type music thing that I don't expect people, to be listening to one recording over and over again. But if there's a new recording being put out every month or so, and it's available even just to listen to streaming, or maybe even to sell it, it'd be really hard to sell a 4-hour audio clip, but
I'm sure there's ways to do it, and I'm sure at least for now there's ways to just make them available to download and say, here's 4 hours of chill music that you can just put on your iTunes and just let it play through, and or even put it on your mobile device or something, and then just play it as you're going to sleep, and then just let it, so I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to sleep to this kind of music, but I know a guy that sleeps to dance music on his iPod every night to go to sleep. So you just never know. But I love the whole freedom that we have now with the digital medium.
Anyways, the cool thing today, though, was that I've been designing this thing I call the altar, and it's just a surface to roll dice on. But I'm blowing it way out of proportion. I'm making it look like it's this big spiritual thing, and it's kind of a hoax, but it's actually pretty serious, though. And I just kind of want to add to the whole magic of the experience. And I think, to show people, what's conceiving this music, I think is really cool to have it on stage and to take a picture of it, of all the dice that have, been rolled and what we're basing the music out of, I think is really cool. So anyways, I built it today with 4 2x4s, some plywood, and 3 legs, and it's very top heavy. So anyways, I am finishing up. It's 1:30 in the morning, and I have a frozen entree of supposedly Indian gourmet food, and for some reason it just seems good with Japanese Kewpie mayonnaise on it. Boy, I must be tired. Anyways, good stuff. I'll keep it going. But hey, it's a start, and I've got to put dividers on it, and I have all this paint. It's really funny because I was doing another project. Just scared the cat. Anyways, whatever I was doing didn't go as planned. That's what the waffles are doing.